This is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome into the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update. After weeks of gridlock in Washington, the federal government has finally reopened. That's right, I said reopened. We're good to go, but not without serious consequences. So today we're looking at some of the costs of this shutdown, from delayed SBA loans and frozen federal contracts to the uncertainty facing small business owners across the country. So I want to be joined today by Tom Sullivan. You've seen him here before at ASBN. He's the Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Sure. So can you expand on the economic impact of this recent government shutdown that we have finally cleared up?
Yeah, Jim, you and I don't talk about many things that are negative.
Right.
And one of the reasons I'm really happy to explain that the terrible consequences of a 6-week shutdown is because we don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
We don't want this to happen at the end of January when our temporary spending for government expires. So I'm really happy to just explain how small businesses were impacted. And our mutual friend, Kelly Loeffler, the head of SBA, actually was, as you would suspect, an incredible champion for small businesses and explaining to the American public the amount of loans that got stalled because SBA couldn't approve them without funding. And, Jim, what rips my heart out is a small business owner going through the process of getting an SBA loan. I mean, this is not something that you just click a button and it happens because the government is backing these loans.
Yeah.
So it takes paperwork, it takes time, it takes relationship building. But to go through all that process, be told by the bank, hey, your loan is almost out the door.
Yeah.
And then for the government to shut down and prevent those dollars from hitting your bank account for 6 weeks is terrible. And let's look at some of the numbers. The numbers are $850 million in SBA loans per week.
Wow.
So that totals over $5 billion that got frozen.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
For six weeks. And
as a small business owner myself, I can imagine how devastating that would be when you're right on the cusp and you've already got, usually those people have those dollars earmarked, Yeah.
Yeah. There's that old expression, we've already spent it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't view that as a negative thing.
Yeah.
I mean, small businesses need that money to grow, and to delay that for 6 weeks was a punch in the gut, not only for Main Street, but also to the U.S. economy.
Right.
And there's another piece of it too, that those are the SBA loans. There's also a group of small business owners who do business with the federal government. I mean, they're part of our warfighting effort. I'm looking at the numbers again, and those are 6,500 small businesses who are under contract with the U.S. government. They did not get paid for 6 weeks. So, and they actually don't necessarily get the back pay. Right. They just don't get paid. And that actually is $3 billion per week, totaling $18 billion.
Wow.
And it's hard for me to wrap my head around the magnitude of these dollars. But our friends in the Congressional Budget Office just announced that this is going to take a hit of 1.5% of GDP from the fourth quarter.
Really? Wow.
And that makes it pretty clear what the stakes are going forward to make sure this doesn't happen again.
That's right. That's right. It can happen again. I would imagine that there's some small business owners that couldn't make it, contractors that are waiting on that kind of money. Most small business owners are living paycheck to paycheck, as many families are, but for different reasons. They've got payroll, they've got rent, they've got all of these different things. They're trying to grow their business at the same time. There had to be some casualties in all of this, right?
There were, and like you, I benefit from talking with small business owners themselves. They help me do my job as a small business advocate in Washington, D.C. One of those small business owners, Brian Butler, who runs Vistra Communications in Tampa, Florida, he does a good deal of business with the federal government. He served in the military at a very high level for a long time. And it's amazing to me to talk with Brian, who has gone through an emotional process of having to let go staff who are like family to him. Immediately following up to tell me how grateful he is to still be operational.
Yeah.
Because there are others who he interacts with all the time who have not been able to survive.
Yeah, that's very, very unfortunate, for sure. Very unfortunate. But hopefully it's in our rearview mirror. To your point, we don't want to go back there again. I'm sure the Chamber is working diligently to get the word out to small business owners. And it was just one of those things that, you know, between the Republicans and the Democrats, the average American, the average small business owner really got caught in the middle. It was just one of those things that was just like, my gosh, you guys have got to come to an understanding here. And without pointing fingers one way or the other, of course they both are, but this to your point, it can't happen again. And it's unfortunate because we were on a pretty good trajectory, right, in the country among small business owners and what they were getting accomplished in 2025. So talk to us about that. I mean, if this hadn't happened, things were looking pretty good. I mean, yes, there were uncertainty. Yeah. There was uncertainty out there. You and I have talked about that. Of course, we had the tariffs, we have the tariffs to deal with. But it looked as though things were slowly, we were working through those challenges, right?
Yeah, I feel a little bit like a rocket ship. On the launch pad, the launch gets scrubbed.
Yeah.
But then things start to fall apart.
Yeah.
And one more thing though about the failure of the U.S. government and Congress to remain operational. We're near to the Thanksgiving season, and this is a time where professionals who work in government affairs in Washington, D.C. come back to wherever they grew up. So for me, it's up near Boston. And it's embarrassing being, sitting down and being thankful for so many things and then trying to answer questions about, well, hey, why did Congress insist on keeping a COVID relief health insurance package going that shuttered so many small businesses? It's embarrassing in the Thanksgiving context to kind of defend what you do in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Turning towards the positive that you mentioned, and that was the trajectory. So the rocket ship that was poised to actually lift off.
Yeah.
You and I talked about before, the passage of the new tax law in July provided that certainty that small business owners are so desperate for.
Right.
Doubling the limit on expensing allowed for a lot of small businesses to put money on products and services that had really only been on the wish list for several months.
That's right.
And now these lower tax rates being made permanent allow for those small business owners to sit down with their tax professionals and plan for 2026.
Yeah, that's right.
And which is critical, because that ability to plan, what you and I were talking about last month, that ability to plan seems to kind of push through that uncertainty. And then government shutdown happened. And just to sound like a broken record, the reason we can't let this happen again is because that additional level of uncertainty has prevented that rocket from launching.
Yeah.
So that trajectory that was going upward, it is now stalled. And I have never seen a small business Saturday, the biggest shopping season of the year.
Yep.
I have never seen the amount of pressure on small businesses to make up the lost revenue in Q4 that I have right now. So
that's right. Good
all
point.
All of your viewers, please, we say this every year, to shop small.
Yep.
I say it with even more passion and emotion because the stakes for this fourth quarter of the year are so high.
That's right. That's right. It's a very good point. And the benefit is I think you're going to see some extraordinary sales out there of small business owners that got squeezed there a little bit. They need the cash flow. They need to turn over some of that inventory that they've been sitting on. And to your point, you're right. You're doing every dollar that you spend with a small business owner is going to just go so far with them and the community that they do business in. So we'll do everything that we can here at the America's Small Business Network to push that and get that message out for sure. So and small businesses. So and I've asked you this, I think every time we get together, and that is the big question for people that are listening that are now looking at their 401k accounts. Maybe they're 59, maybe they're 58, maybe they're 60, and they're thinking, should I start a small business? Because today's message is a little bit doom and gloom, but it's not normally. Is now a good time to start a small business, Tom?
Well, Jim, I'm going to answer your question, one, the same way I do every time, and then two, a little bit differently. The similar response is what you're really asking, are Americans willing to work twice as many hours
that's right.
to live the American dream? And the answer is yes, now is a good time. But my second part of the answer is a little bit different. I think that right now, because there still is so much uncertainty, small businesses' ability to be flexible is actually an advantage for them to do well in uncertain times. And for that reason, I think, yes, now is a good time to start a small business.
I agree. Tom Sullivan, the Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I might also add that if you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, maybe you didn't even open up your small business yet, but you want to get the training, you want to get the networking, become a member of the U.S. Chamber, but also of your local Chamber of Commerce. That is a great place to begin your small business career. And they've got so many different, every chamber has got so many different ways to help you. And of course, the networking is priceless. So we can't say enough about supporting your local chamber and of course, the U.S. Chamber. So Tom, thank you so much for joining us once again. Really appreciate it. Jim,
thank you for amplifying the positivity of all local chambers of commerce and your partnership with us here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Really appreciate you.
And we appreciate you too. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan.